Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Weyandt, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Great Tech Group, where we model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. This episode is part of Prefab Unfiltered, recorded live at Advancing Prefabrication, a special series focused on what it really takes to make prefab and modular construction work at scale. And there's no better way to kick off this series than with someone who's been shaping the prefab conversation for over a decade, Amy Marks. Amy has been at the forefront of industrialized construction long before it was normalized. From early adoption conversations to ecosystem thinking at scale, she's helped push the industry from asking, should we prefab, to now asking, how do we execute better? Amy doesn't deal in hype. She deals in reality, and this one sets the tone for the entire series. Let's dive in. Welcome to Bridging the Gap. We are recording live from Advancing Prefabrication here in Dallas, Texas, and super excited to welcome back one of our most reoccurring guests on the show, Amy Marks. Thanks for taking the time to come back and join us.
Thank you for having me. I feel illustrious now. This is fantastic.
This is very exciting. It's part of like the annual rhythm for sure to get down and sit and talk with you. So, a super cool event happening right now at Advancing Prefab, and it's a big milestone being the 10th anniversary. I wonder if you can just take a moment and kind of reflect on that for 10 years Advancing Prefab and being the kind of main ambassador of this event.
Yeah, it's crazy when I think about that it's been 10 years. And I think we've gotten to a place that's so different than where we started. And I think when we first started it, it was quirky and, it was a lot of mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors in a room. I think we had 225 people, and now it's like, I don't know, somewhere between 12 and 1,300 people this year. But it was a bit, we were all pushing against the grain and doing new things. And now it's like very normalized in the space. And so I think that's what we're talking about. How do we like get to the next level now that we've normalized and it's not such a big push? Like, should we prefab or not prefab? No, everyone prefabs now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, I think it's time to, what is the next after kit of parts?
Yeah. So what does real evolution in the industry look like versus the industry hype that has, been out there?
Is there hype? I don't Man, I got to get online a little bit more now. I think, what's out there is that people have really been optimizing, the kit of parts. They've been optimizing their one product, the way they do things. They've been optimizing their tech and, going from BIM-to-fab solutions and things like that. I think the next level up is now we're really talking about, systems of multiple different pieces and parts with multiple sub-ecosystems of suppliers that are working together, really up-leveling the integration of those components and up-leveling the way we buy those components, the way we partner with people to buy those components, what we focus on in the space. And I think it's really moving into a different place of maturity so that it's not just about what you make, it's about what kind of company you are and the company you keep. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
Mm-hmm. So with the company that you keep, how's that evolved over the last decade?
Well, I think, again, like you used to be able to just sell a product and you would productize, and we talked a lot about that and how do you optimize your product? And it's like, well, but now, you can't really build a building just on one product, and you're part of a system, whether you're a mechanical contractor. And this morning we used the example of like in a liquid cooling system, but there are electrical systems and structural systems out there. And who do you want to make those things with? Because you're not going to make every part of potentially the liquid cooling system. And you're not going to be every part of the electrical system. And there's multiple players in there. How do you figure out who you want to be with, go together to a lot of these places and continue to work together so that from project to project, you're not relearning things every single time. And I think owners are more open to that now. They're thinking about the fact that they're getting cross-project learning, portfolio-wide learning, and they're just a little bit different in the way they're going to procure things now than they used to be.
Yeah. One of the cool, I think, very positive changes that I've noticed over the last decade in the industry is that the silos are kind of coming down a lot more. We used to talk about like, oh, we need to bring down the silos, but now it's actually happening and people are, the kind of stakeholders that maybe had some rivalry, let's share, they're letting some of that go and being like, oh no, we're going to work together. We're going to be partners. We're going to build our ecosystems, and together we are much stronger.
That's right.
Marching out, which I think is a really cool kind of thing.
It's like the walls come down. Okay, if the walls are down, what do we do? you know, if we're actually going to collaborate together,
Yeah, what next? Yeah.
how do you do that? Like, what do you talk about? Like, what do we optimize? Who does what? What's the best use of our time? Like, who's good at what certain things? It's like almost like a sports team. It's like what position you want to play. Like when you kind of almost like when you go to a select side in rugby, when you get picked for like a select side and you don't play with the same players that you play on your home team, and all of a sudden with a bunch of people and you're like, what do you want to play? Like, what are you good at? And how do we like put the system together with the best players, even if we've never been there before? And then like, I know my daughter, when she plays select side, she wants to play with the same select players wherever they go. And sometimes she'll say no if like she doesn't know anybody. It's like, it's great that we have people now that know how to work together and they know what they're good at and they know what they're not good at, and they can rely on each other.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the essence of teamwork there.
I mean, I had to bring rugby up.
I liked it. It might be a new record, though. Some of it's it. I like it. So I want to shift and talk about the language that we use, because you've done a lot in helping to define the language and bring in the lexicon that we use in the industry. How have you seen that evolve, and where are people still getting the language wrong?
Ugh. I don't know. I feel like, these days, maybe I'm like more tolerant as I get older, but no, maybe not. I think again, like, when people talk about prefabrication or modular, there's a big difference when people are talking about boxes versus like component parts. And I think it's a far more robust industry when you're talking about components and different types of parts, mechanical, electrical, multi-trade assemblies, or, skids and things like that. And then I guess think when people are new here and they think like housing is the way, and I know I love housing like anybody else. I want people to have homes, but I don't believe that that's where we're going to make the biggest impact in our space. And so when people come here, sometimes if it's their first year at the show, all they want to do is talk about modular housing. And I'm like, you're at the wrong event. Not that we don't have like a space for that here, but I think that part of it, I see less and less of it, mostly with the people that are just kind of coming to the party a little later. But I think people recognize now, I mean, when you think about a data center, no one's saying modular data center. They're talking about a kit of parts of assemblies. And yes, some of those are modular assemblies, like full volumetric assemblies. But I think for the most part, I don't hear that much misuse unless people come from the housing space into our space, commercial space.
Yeah, interesting. So on the macro trends, you talking kind of a bit there. How do you see the macro trends shifting and evolving?
Well, I think again, like, we talked about it this morning at the keynote, that really we've been living under the assumption we can change things from the bottom up, and that's just not true. And we have a really phenomenal opportunity right now in the world with all of the volume that things are coming through with on data centers or semiconductor, even like hospitals and things like that, and things that are happening politically that are like bringing a lot of work to the space. How do we take that scale? How do we learn from that? And how do we trickle it down into some of the other places that don't have scale? And I think that's the trend, right? It's like top down change. When you have a full factory, you have an opportunity to take on smaller component parts for other types of jobs, because I would say your keep the lights on business is there, right? So it's like when you're going to have scale, it frees you up to actually do some things, right? Like no one can invest unless you have a scale. Nobody can figure out like really the right way to do everything they want to do unless they have scale to like keep the money coming in and the lights on. And I think that's the biggest thing that's changed now, is that into our space of prefab for a lot of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors. I mean, there's a reason a lot of them that I know from back in the day aren't here this year. They're just busy. Like they're busy right now. And we hope to see you back next year. But I think that's the biggest macro trend, right? It's that there's a lot more scale now. So people are learning from that scale and taking it to the next level.
Yeah. So you said a really interesting phrase that I want to dig into. You said, when you know you have scale. How do you know you have scale?
Well, you're not living paycheck to paycheck, as I would say. Like when I owned a factory, and like, you could have 11 good months and then one bad month, you could be out of business. Scale these days is over years of time now. You have a lot of work in the backlog. You have a select group of a few customers that are providing all of that scale for you. I mean, that's the reality of it today. You can literally have a few good customers and have scale in your factory. I mean, just for you, like I say your factory as if you have one, but like look at all the guys and gals that are working in the data center space. They are opening up multiple factories now, purpose-built factories, one client only type dedicated factories. I mean, we have hit a scale now. And by the way, if you are not in that space, you're not one of the early adopters, because all of the early adopters now are busy, multiple locations, providing like product to a good group of customers right now. I think you're there when you're not living paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. Like if you don't get that job, you're out of business.
Yeah. So do you think that as part of the scale that is coming into the industry, that some of the kind of flexibility is starting to hit kind of that critical mass? What I mean by that is, I think, several years ago, people viewed prefab as like you had to do 100% of the entire project as prefab, or else it didn't really count.
Right.
Where now it's like, no, it's okay for this part of it to be prefab or modular, what have you.
Right.
We're just going to focus on this part, and the rest, fine, great. It's traditional, and we're going to move it around like we normally do. But this part, we're going to standardize. We have it down.
Yeah.
Move forward. And I think that's been an interesting mindset shift. Have you seen that?
I think that's true. I think it's funny. I think it may have always been true. I just think we didn't recognize it. Like I'll never forget. I was standing there with an older gentleman once, looking out over Boston, and he said to me, like, "Look, there's no modular going on right there." And I was like, "What?" Like, if I could X-ray into those buildings that are being built right now, all the MEP is fabricated offsite. Like this was years ago, and I think we're just starting to recognize that that's the norm, right? Like you don't have. It's really the expensive stuff that is actually getting fabricated. When you look at a building, doesn't have to be in complete totality modular or all prefabricated, but the expensive parts are like, and I think that's the part um, that's still sometimes the mindset needs to get past that. Like, if you think that the expensive parts aren't being fabricated, I think you're wrong in like any major type of complex building, right? Like, so I think that's the part that has really shifted, and again, like it's becoming more and more normal, but it's also, we're recognizing that it's more and more normal. It's been there, but we're talking about it differently now, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just, I'm going to bring it into AI. We made it pretty long before AI came up. But in the context of AI, I was talking with somebody, and they were talking about the kind of the hype and adoption curve of any new big technology trend. And so you get the way overinflated expectations that this is going to be the silver bullet. It's going to cure, all the world's ills. And then it starts to kind of go down, and people realize that, oh, it's not the silver bullet. They kind of go into this trough of disillusionment, and then they start coming back up of, oh, here's the reality, and here's where the kind of the expectation level setting should be. And once they hit that point, that's when they're able to scale. They're able to, really embrace it, and they start the adoption a whole lot more because they kind of wrap their arms around it.
Yeah.
It seems like prefab in the last 10 years has done a similar trend that, we had some kind of, expectations that this was going to be 100% and it was going to take over. You had all those big projects, and you're like, well, how are we bringing that to this, smaller project? But then we kind of went through of like, okay, it's not, you don't have to do it 100%. And maybe now we're setting level setting where the reality actually is.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, it's so funny when you bring up AI in the construction space. I think you have to this is going to sound strange, but you have to separate two things.
Okay.
There's AI, the growth of AI, which is driving a lot of the scale in the actual construction industry right now for a lot of these MEP contractors. The fact that we need more data centers is actually moving prefab further ahead than anything else, right? And that the majority of the expensive parts in data centers are MEP, and that it's completely normalized that those are fabricated offsite. So put that aside. Now take AI into your business, which is more what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I find, I don't know, I kind of sit here and watch you and go, it took a dip down. I mean, in my life, it's only gone up, right? So it's I don't even know if I go to Google anymore. I am on every AI.
Well, I don't think AI has started to hit the dip down yet. I think we're still probably at the hype of over expectation.
I don't know about over expectations. I mean, I think we have to be realistic in the expectations. There are certain jobs that are not going to be taken over by AI. And if you work with your hands and you're a tradesperson, good on you. We need more of you. And you're pretty safe, in a lot of ways, right? So that's why, if you don't want to go to college these days, you should absolutely go be an electrician or a welder or a plumber or a carpenter. And you will have a great life. You'll make a lot of money. If you're a woman in the space, you'll make as much as the male counterparts that you have, if not more. So we should know that. I think when we apply AI to our business, for those leaders that are open to it, that are allowing people to do it without question, with understanding that there's, yes, of course, data security and data fidelity, but they're creating a place, a space, especially I can only say in our company, where it's encouraged. They actually give an award out in my team in and of itself. We have an AI award every month that people are giving out to who uses it in the most creative way. I don't know. I think my life these days, it's almost like I can't get anywhere without Waze. I feel like I can't do my day-to-day job without AI now. Literally, I can't. I don't know why I would want to. Like things that took me hours take seconds now, right? And I don't know. I think if you're not embracing it, even like dipping your toe in and like figuring it out, and you're not like, again, you don't have to jump from like 0 to 100. You just need to like go step by step and like work with it and, embrace your younger employees that are going to teach you how to do certain things and,
Yeah.
avoid the South Park episode that makes us all look silly that when we think about it. I think my family looks over at me when we watch that. So I think I'm prompting everything on AI these days. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, AI is it's here to stay.
Yes.
So embrace it.
Yeah.
And there's a cliche that AI is not going to take your job, but somebody that knows how to use AI is going to take your job. And
Probably
it's a cliche, but it's
Right.
reality, especially in the kind of the business sphere.
Yeah.
I like how you separated that. I think that's like 100% valid.
Okay.
So in the business side of things, you got to use AI.
I don't. Are people still talking about the fact that they don't? Do people not use AI?
I think it's becoming a way more commonplace for sure.
I was going to say, like, I definitely think the thing that I learn now is like I see other apps and other AI, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. I've never used that one before. But like, I remember when we started first using Notebook LM or like Gemini or like not just ChatGPT or like there's Perplexity and things like. I mean, there's a million cool things now, and then there's AI even in like pipe routing and like electrical routing and things like that. And AI when you want to design for voice chat buildings and things like that in your design. There's so many cool things out there that in some ways, like I'm living too much in the now.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that
I think the conversation is not, do you use it? Do you not? It's how do you use it? When do you use it?
Yeah.
What are you going to use it for? And like, is it helpful in that?
Yeah. I think, listen, you're only as good as your prompts. Focus. That's the way you set it up. Like, I feel like
It's a new college degree now.
I know. Is that crazy? Like, I was a good writer in general. Like, cause I had my undergrad is in like PR, so I could write things.
I didn't realize that we were
You didn't know
our majors together.
Yeah, I'm saying,
I like it.
Go UF, go Gators. But like, if you can prompt well and you actually know how to ask things, and like, and again, like, I love ChatGPT in some ways. So I have projects set up. It's like I have like a virtual assistant all the time, really, in my life now. Before I didn't know how to use projects in there, and I was just like chatting stuff all the time. But I think the more you learn about it, the easier your life gets, and then you can't live without it. And again, like I can't get to the grocery store without Waze. I can't imagine going through a day in my life without using different types of AI for different reasons at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to pivot. Let's bring up data centers. Okay.
Yeah.
So you already talked about it. It's really at the crux of prefab and modular right now. What lessons learned from data centers do you think can carry on to the rest of the industry?
Listen, data centers in comparison to some other buildings are pretty simple buildings, right? Like they're not super, super complex buildings. They're not semiconductor fab facilities, which I worked on for many years, and they're not like giant complex hospitals. I mean, they're giant, but they're pretty simple in themselves. And I think what we're learning there is that standardization is key. And if you're working with some owners that have standard product that have subsets, sub ecosystems of standard of partners, closely coupled partners, that you can exponentially increase the productivity and the value for not just, and Chris said it on stage today, our CEO, he said, like, the people that are our partners are making more money with us as their customer. So they make more money and our costs go down. So like that is true. For years and years, people were like, that's impossible. And it's like, no, we are their best customer and we're building at the lowest total cost of ownership with the fastest schedule. It is factual, but you have to, again, to today's conversation, you have to work it. Like you have to have a culture in place. You have to have, we talked about ICG and the, maturity assessment that they do. There's a reason that Compass got platinum. And I said it on stage. I'm like, I could leave tomorrow and the prefab would be just as good. There's like, it'd be better even, in some ways, like literally getting better every day. And I feel like, that's the thing we've learned from this, right? That it's not just about the part itself. It's about the procurement. It's about your partners. It's about the culture. It's about the whole organization as a whole and your readiness for this. And it's about, influencing the rest of the ecosystem with the way you're doing business. It is leading the charge. One day there will be better housing because of data centers. 100%. Like it is going to fix some of the things that are broken in the other applications of construction because we're learning things. There's enough scale and people are investing.
Yeah. Interesting. So you mentioned about the cultural aspect of it. What needs to shift culturally in order to bring in even more of that repeatability and have people embrace it even more?
I think the word partner is not just a word. Like, we say, like, I like to use the expression, it's not Chris's, it's mine, that like we write checks and they write checks. It's like people are like, oh, if you could just get into one of these data centers, like what a great company, like business it would be. It's like, no, they take risk and we take risk. It's like there is a lot of failure on the path to success that we're all okay with, knowing that we're going to be married for like umpteen amount of years for so many megawatts. And I think that has got to change. The way you procure has got to change. The way you talk to one another has to change. The openness has to change. It's like we say early days. I don't know if you remember this. I'd be like, if you got in the room early, what would you say? And people were like, if you could get in early, they're like, I just got to be there early. I got to be there early. I'm like, great, you're in early. What do you do? And they were like, So like now you got to know what it is you're going to say if you're there early enough to be a partner if you're just constantly there, it's not even early. If you're constantly there, what do you do as a good partner? How do you behave? Like, what kind of decisions do you make? It changes your motivations. It changes the way you do things. It changes the way you you deal with mistakes when they happen. So I think that is really different. Like I said it on stage, I hear people say like, we have partners. And then the next word out of their mouth is we go to bid for 5 people. And I was like, wait, you don't really have partners then. You know what I mean? Like, and again, might not have partners for everything, but for the big things, the important things, the expensive things, the things that were at risk, you got to have partners. Like people are busy these days too. Like you need to know you can count on certain people, and you may pay more, like Chris said up front, but over time you're going to pay less and they're going to make more money. So
goes back to the teamwork that we started the conversation with. Yeah. So, I like to define terms. How would you define partner?
Wow, that was a good question. I think, again, we say closely coupled partners where we are both incentivized in a similar manner, right? We know what we're trying to accomplish. We're very transparent, right? We may not be totally open book, but we're very transparent about mistakes that are made, about how we make money, about how we lose money, on how it's easier to do business with each other together, on where we think the other partner is doing something that might impede us. So I think it's a very honest. Trust is a huge part of it. And, Chris said it today, like we don't do business with people that we don't have C-level relationships with. So it's like, I used to call it the pick up the phone factor. And not only can Chris and any of our C-level execs pick up the phone, but they have purposeful meetings on a, weekly or biweekly basis where they're doing executive awareness, where everybody is transparent. Everyone is aware that there's failure on the path to success. Sometimes we do stuff and we realize like we don't have all the answers. So we figure out the right way to execute without all the answers together, knowing that there are some known unknowns. But we talk about them and we're willing to work with each other on that. And because we know we're in it for the long game and that everyone's going to act accordingly, I think is, that your behavior benefits not just yourself, but you think about all of your partners and, whether you're going to all rise up together or hurt somebody else. And so I would say trusting, transparent, a lot of communication and high level communication, C-level executive awareness at all times. Yeah, I think like, how was that? That was off the fly. So
I like it. Yeah, it is. It's proactive and regular consistency.
Yeah.
In that communication too. It's not just when, something hits the fan.
Yeah.
It's always
just all the time,
Yeah.
like all the time. And like, also like, people, our partners, I see them all the time in our office. Some of them actually have offices in our office. Like they don't go to their company's office. They have an office inside of Compass's office and they're with us 24/7, like all the time. And like, our C-suite will like get on a plane and like fly to people's factories and like walk factories and visit them there. And so it does take like energy. You have to like put some energy in some.
As all good, it takes effort.
Exactly.
Yeah. So looking out at 10 years, okay, so we're talking the 20th anniversary of Advancing Prefab.
Hold on. I'll be 64. Okay, go ahead.
What's your moonshot for the industry?
Can't I just get one day at a time here? No, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's funny. That was one of the questions on the iPad today when I got up there and I purposely maybe avoided it. I don't know who asked it, but sorry if I avoided your question. Where are we at 10 years from now? I mean, I think more owners are acting like Compass, and I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to move away from these relationships that are very transactional. I think you're going to see more pockets of sub-ecosystems that work together repeatedly. I think you're going to see more influential owners that are out in the space that are making big differences. I think you're going to see definitely some consolidation in the space, like for those people that are buying up factories and that are buying up companies that are good at this. I think you'll see some consolidation. Yeah, I think again, like more normalized. Like this has become so normal now, but I don't know what 10 years looks like. Hopefully my kid's out of college and I don't know, maybe somebody else will like step on and sit in your podcast instead of me. I'll have I don't know, at 64, I might have a couple years left after that, but working, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice. Well, as we start to land the plane, a couple rapid fire questions
Okay.
for you, okay? What is the most underrated opportunity in prefab right now?
Shoot. I mean, like, I think underrated is the hard word there for me. I'd be fabbing. I'd be if I had to come in here today, I'd buy some equipment and fab some very simple single trade components for some of the other big guys that don't have the capacity. I'd be making pipe, brass spools. I'd be doing electrical single trade. Like I would just make my own like sub assemblies to the assembly guys that are making big stuff now. That's underrated.
Yeah.
Like people don't have to be big multi-trade, fabricators that are doing huge things. It's like I would support that space right now. It's probably underrated.
Nice. What is the phrase modeling the future? What does that mean and look like to you?
Modeling the future. I mean, I think I don't know, when I think model, I hate to think the models in my head, but like digitalization even better. But I think modeling the future is more about our behavior. Maybe I would say for me, it's modeling the right behaviors.
I like it. How do people connect and find out more information?
I mean, I'm always on LinkedIn, although I am swamped these days. It's real tough when it's my birthday or my work anniversary. I get about 10,000 congrats. Stop thanking me and like saying happy birthday. Like then I can get to your messages faster. But yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to reach out to me. Instagram, I'm on Instagram. Sometimes that's easier. I don't get as many messages on Instagram that I do on LinkedIn. But yeah, like come and support. And, you can always reach me at every U.S. Women's Rugby Foundation thing. If you ever want to like get great women in our space, go for the athletes, go for the rugby players. We need you to write some checks and like come and support athletes that need jobs. We have lots of welders on my side.
I like it. Last question for you. If I could give you all construction power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing. What would you pick to innovate?
I would probably get rid of all the contracts we have and start fresh. I'd fix the risk profile. Like I just think it holds us back.
Yeah. It's a big hindrance in the teamwork conversation that we were having and trying to bring it down the silos.
I think Chris said it. It's like we're in such a litigious part of the society. He said this is the reason it is. Like, there's nobody left to like make money from, but to like push back and sue on the built environment kind of thing he said today. And it's like, I would fix that. I would fix the way that we look at risk and the way we write contracts and how we make money. I'd change the business models.
Yeah. Well, Amy, always a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time and joining us.
10 years, where are you going to be 10 years from now? How your little kids will be grown up?
Oh, I'll have all teenagers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But for a couple of years.
Be very scared.
That's crazy. Yeah. My oldest will be in college. And
oh man.
I don't like this exercise, Amy. Stop asking the question.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for having me again. And like, we'll see you next year.
Sounds good. And now it's time for my Todd takes from this episode. First take. Prefab has officially entered the execution era. For years, we were all trying to prove that prefab works. That debate is over. It works. Now the question is, can we execute it consistently? Can we repeat it? Can we scale it? What Amy made really clear is that the future isn't about hype anymore. It's about operational discipline, ecosystems, maturity, getting better every single project. Prefab isn't experimental anymore. It's professional. Second take, partnerships isn't a buzzword. It's a business model. We throw that word around a lot, partner. But Amy challenged that. If you're still bidding 5 companies every time and calling them partners, that's not partnership. That's transactional. Real partnership looks like shared risk, shared reward, executive level communication, transparency when things go wrong, a long-term mindset. When both sides are invested, I mean truly invested, that's when prefab scales. And final take, scale changes everything. Amy said something that stuck with me. You know you've reached scale when you no longer are living paycheck to paycheck. Scale gives you breathing room. It gives you investment capacity. It gives you tolerance for learning. It allows culture to mature. Right now, data centers are creating that scale for a lot of the industry. The big takeaway, what's being learned in data centers today is going to ripple into healthcare, semiconductor, housing, you name it. Scale is the unlock. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you are interested in learning more, you can visit our sponsor, Great Tech Group, at greattech.com for more information. You can listen to this podcast anytime by simply going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to check out our website, bridgingthegappod.com. As always, I'm Todd Weyandt, thanking you for joining the conversation to model the future on the Bridging the Gap podcast. Keep innovating.